Well, you know this company, Elemental Gold in Miami, Florida? I talked about that interesting article. I think Bloomberg covered it at first. How these South American illegal gold mines are operating. It's almost like the drug cartel, but they're doing it with gold, selling it way under, which I shouldn't say way under, just under normal price, a normal spot price or any kind of even remotely close to the spot price of gold to a company just like Elemental, uh, which no, I shouldn't say just like them. That we may find that was the company where all this illegal gold was coming from. And I've read that, which it might be in this article too, from silver doctors, that a large portion, I shouldn't say large portion of yearly gold, but a large portion of what was coming in with huge discounts was going to places like the LBMA. And then I said, well, that's interesting. Now the CME Group and Thomson Reuters, right after that news broke, says we're backing away from doing the PM fix with the LBMA. We're getting away from that. And I said, wait a minute. I remember reading something about the LBMA tied to Elemental. Elemental was one of the ones supplying that. So I'm almost wondering, it's just a thought, because this is about to get very interesting as I read you this. Is this part of the cartel, the gold and silver manipulating cartel, using this, buying up all this cheap, illegal mined gold? I think it's like 44% of what leaves these South American countries is this illegal gold. So you're taking the countries are taking a massive hit to, tax money and profits that the country itself could be taking. But they get their sweetheart deal, and then they ship it out to, LBMA or whatever. But I wonder if this is all tied in, and that maybe something spectacular regarding the manipulation side of things explodes because of some of this or all of this, and we find that metals are about to be let free. Webbot seems to think so. Disclaimer, Webbot's not been real accurate on the timing of silver or gold, but seems to think so. Anyways, it says, what does the Elemental Gold scandal say about gold prices? DGSE, a publicly traded retailer, just signed an LOI to buy Elemental LLC. It gets better. DGSE is number 2 on the S&P list of likely retailers to default. Wait, there's more. Elemental is actually majority shareholder in DGSE. Essentially, Elemental, which controls DGSE, would rather default than have the real depths of its activities revealed. What does Elemental imply for precious metals? Gold smuggling accounts for up to 75% of all LATAM gold imported in the U.S. Disruption of this augmented gold supply is bullish for gold. Elemental is running for corporate cover. And last but not least, no one seems to care. Update 1. DGSE, a publicly traded retailer, just signed an LOI to buy Elemental. Again, I just read you that part. Gold and supply augmented with an illegal supply, essentially. In the past decade and a half, global gold consumption has risen by almost 1,000 tons per year to about 4,300 tons, according to the World Gold Council, a London-based industry group. Legal mining operations haven't kept up with demand, so illegal mines controlled by criminal gangs from the Amazon to Central Africa help cover the deficit, according to Verity, a nonprofit group in Amherst, Massachusetts, that's researched the illegal gold trade. A 2016 study from them found that 5 countries in Latin America shipped 40 tons of gold from illegal mines to the U.S. in 1 year, almost twice the legal exports from those countries. So you can see it's quite a lot of gold leaving those countries. Simply put, number 1, Elemental's source of metal for refinement were illegal. And again, since you were using illegal gold and supplying it to the LBMA in London, I think that's why the CME Group had to we got to back off of this one. We're no longer working with the LBMA. You guys have been using hot gold and the LBMA. What are we going to do? All of a sudden, we have these weird gold fix problems all of a sudden, right? The fix is, $10, $15, $12 lower than the spot price. It's happened numerous times now. It's never happened like this before. One time, it triggered a little circuit breaker that was like a blurb on the Reuters headline. Thomson Reuters, no one talked about it. It wasn't anywhere else. That was weird. I think it happened for silver once also. So there's some very strange happenings all of a sudden since this thing blew up over there at Elemental. It says this, so Elemental's source of metal for refinement were illegal. Number 2, this implies higher prices via loss of black market source discounts, because again, they're getting huge discounts, and raw supply that was artificially augmented. Number 3, Florida is still the source of all of our woes, he says. Not really sure why. I know Elemental was in Florida, but why Florida? Is it just because of that? Number 4, Bloomberg will gladly cover the gold scandal, but not the supply and demand implications. In the next title he's got here is The Press Demonizes Gold More. Gold, Scandville, evil, drugs, buy stocks. We searched the web, but we were hard-pressed for a single Bloomberg article that states the obvious. This implies gold demand is outstripping legitimate supply and is bullish for prices. We find this annoying since Bloomberg is the primary source for the info above. And Bloomberg says the charges signal a U.S. crackdown on smugglers exploiting a spike in worldwide consumption of gold mined illegally in the Amazon basin, where laborers use fire hoses and mercury to extract the nearly pure precious metal. Note in the above that gold buyers are exploited. Gold is tied to drugs and illegal activity. It is true in this case, but the implications aren't bad for gold. As they demonetize cash to eradicate it, gold is now being tied to a crime or to crime. This is typical, and it is a canard utilized to steer you away from an investment tool that cannot be branded or properly securitized yet. Have you ever read an article saying drug traffickers used U.S. bearer bonds to hide their money? Be careful of U.S. bonds. They could be illegally obtained. There is a phrase in the trader community that goes like this: gold miners and gold are not in the FOB club, friend of Bloomberg. FOB, friend of Bloomberg. The illegal Venezuelan oil for bonds trade. Meanwhile, we are pretty sure that Venezuelan officials have made illegal sales of oil cargoes purchased U.S. bonds with the cash through accounts in the Caribbean, and those bonds are now being held in custodial accounts at U.S. banks for their later benefit. It goes like this. A Venezuelan dictator who is in danger of losing control must solidify his military support. So he tells a general, see that tanker over there? It's a gift to you. Keep the money that the oil sells for. General does just that and exports the cash to the U.S. The dictator lives to rule another day. How do we know? One of our group was tasked to retrieve some of those U.S.-held bonds for a South American military official, probably getting ready to skate out of Venezuela. We had actually reported this to U.S. officials and have heard nothing since. It is rampant, and it is electronic, and those bonds are in U.S. banks. But gold, that inert yellow pet rock, it is a means to launder drug money. So if illegal gold production is rampant in Latin America, and in several countries, unregulated, illegal, and informal mines account for over 75% of gold produced, as the Verity report states, why is this not being addressed? Where are Crockett and Tubbs when you need them? Why hasn't this been stopped? Aren't we supposed to follow the money to catch smugglers? How hard can it be to catch money that conspicuous? Maybe it is because we want gold prices to be low. Maybe some banks benefit from this. That is not crazy when one realizes that HSBC got its start in the opium trade back in the day. Maybe they want the cheap gold to keep flowing. To put a finer point on things, there is a historical correlation between supply disruptions in commodities and price increases. Studies from as far back as Victorian-era England consistently find that a 5% disruption in supply of a product with no change in demand creates roughly a temporary 20% increase in price. 5% disruption equals a temporary, but rather large, 20% increase in price, historically speaking, for anything. To be fair, temporary supply disruption varies in its effect on immediate prices depending on the product disrupted. But by many figures or measures, gold is a Giffen good. So what would happen if all of a sudden 75% of all the LATAM gold produced were unavailable for purchase? LATAM, Latin America. Recent examples would be the manipulation of natural gas supply to California by Enron and the subsequent price spikes. Another would be the short-lived oil shock of 2007 and 8. How crazy is it that upwards of 75% of Latin American gold is illegally mined? Much of it is used for drug money laundering. It weighs a ton, and the U.S. has not cracked down on it? But we are all over blood diamonds, which are infinitely easier to smuggle than 100 pounds of gold, right? So the Elemetal fiasco is telling of a bigger issue, that gold supplies are augmented with illegally procured metal, and no one cares. Elemetal does not seem to care. Elemetal moves forward, well, kind of. Here's the most recent letter coming from Elemetal. It is actually a marketing piece. Dear valued Elemetal Capital customer, Elemetal Capital will be performing an inventory audit over the next 14 to 21 days. We kindly ask for your cooperation by not making any new bullion sales to Elemetal Capital or sending any material to us during this time. You don't want money for sales of gold coming? No, not right now. We got to do an audit. Your in-transit packages and sales booked to Elemental Capital before this notice of inventory will be priced as agreed. Materials shipped to us after this notice and during the limited audit period, however, including private mint bars, round sovereign mint coins, standard recognized bullion, will be forwarded to our scrap channels for lock-in at the following scrap rates, which they don't list. Gold, 99% of fine content, silver 95% of fine content, platinum 95% of fine content, palladium 95% of fine content, which I guess that's their rates, whatever that means. Please note that the usual scrap business of Elemental Direct is unaffected by this Elemental Capital inventory. We'll announce very soon when we will resume accepting bullion at market rates. All the best, Elemental Capital. CME Group and the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, has suspended Elemental Refining LLC last week from trading gold and silver futures on its exchanges. Why are these people even allowed to be in business? Silver doctors have been all over this from day one. In fact, they have been all over this type of risk from day -100. From a previous Silver Doctors article, federal agents have arrested NTR Metals manager Juan Granda, the self-proclaimed modern-day Pablo Escobar of gold, over charges the U.S. gold and silver firm smuggled billions of illegally mined gold into the U.S. As Bloomberg reports, NTR Metals company manager Juan Granda has now been arrested and charged. The operations manager at a metals refining company was charged with helping run a gold smuggling network that reaped billions of dollars for illegal mines controlled by drug dealers and other criminals in South America. Officials believe NTR smuggled nearly $4 billion in illegally mined gold beginning in 2012. In 2013, Peru seized $18 million worth of gold bound for refineries in Miami and elsewhere, including NTR. The rest got away, we guess. So what's going on here? South American smugglers and drug traffickers laundered money through sales of illegally mined gold from the Amazon rainforest. They sold it to NTR personnel in Latin America. The NTR people, through various transactions, laundered their purchases in other South American countries as the gold made its way to the U.S. Some of that gold then entered the U.S. via legitimate Florida businessmen acting as a final intermediary for the laundering process. And on that note, I've heard of this video lately, this French guy being interviewed. He was a top banking guy that would help launder money for the club, and it got into trafficking humans and all that stuff. He said his conscience came back and he couldn't deal with it anymore. He kind of had a breakdown and was giving this interesting story. I don't have the link in front of me right now, so I'm just going to ask us, any subscriber, I know you know what I'm talking about, comment somewhere in there and say, here's the link to the French interview. It's got English subtitles. And as I'm reading this, it makes me think of everything this guy just got done talking about. Laundering money, that's all this is about. Doesn't matter if it's gold, drugs, guns. It's just a big network of people to do anything to launder our money. From Bloomberg, virtually all of the gold NTR purchased from Ecuador, including the gold from Spartan del Ecuador, was routed through an intermediary company, MVP Imports. According to the U.S. complaints, U.S. custom records show MVP Imports as the importer, masking NTR's role as the ultimate purchaser of the gold, the prosecutor said. MVP Imports, a high-end knick-knack store for the rich in Coral Gables, Florida. Interesting city in Florida, because Lindsey Williams gave a story about when he was young and his dad had a bunch of Coral Gables bonds. They were kind of wealthy, he said, back then. His father did well. Invested his money in Coral Gables bonds, and then they went bust and wiped him out. Interesting. But anyways, a high-end knick-knack store, which is MVP Imports, in Coral Gables may actually be a laundromat. The company is run by a prominent businessman in Florida that is accused of being listed in customs records as the buyer of much of the smuggled gold NTR bought, masking the fact that NTR bought it. What is NTR, and what does that have to do with Elemetal? Elemetal is the parent company of NTR. The list below is believed to be accurate. This is a list of many or most of the Elemental-related companies, including both corporations and names they do business as. Some are likely no longer operating. Many of the NTR companies are likely now operating as Elemental. There's a list. I'm not going to go through this huge list. He's got one highlighted, though, in red. Provident Precious Metals, LLC. And maybe he'll talk about why that is. And then there's the DGSE he talked about earlier. Companies, Inc. Elemental is a majority shareholder, has 69 employees as of December 31st, 2015. Anyways, Florida, climate change, can't swallow it fast enough. Good luck. Update 1. DGSE is a retailer in serious trouble itself. Posted today are the S&P top 10 retailers at risk of default per the Wall Street Journal, and DGSE takes second place. Somehow we doubt the complicated structures and the DGSE buyout aren't to make things more transparent for investors. Sears Holdings is the first one, Sears. And then second, of course, is DGSE Companies. Interesting. A leader wholesaler of jewelry, retailer of jewelry, diamonds, fine watches, and precious metal bullion and rare coin products today announced that it has entered into a non-binding letter of intent, LOA, with Elemental LLC to acquire the tangible personal property assets of Elemental and Elemental Recycling LLC. Approximately $3.8 million of obligations owed by DGSE to Elemental is $19.8 million. In addition, DGSE would assume certain accounts payable of recycling. So whatever. I don't know. It's just, again, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think Elemental knew damn well, its little subsidiary, whatever, down in Miami, Florida, was getting this hot gold. And now, as this investigation continues, which they're going to, now all of a sudden DGSE is trying to buy this thing out, but they're the majority shareholders of DGSE. Like this is just too weird. I think these are all connected. They all use the same thing: smuggled gold, illegal gold, whatever. And I'm hoping that it's all exposed and it's not just the one in Miami, but there's a big network and they go crashing and down and burning. But remember about the CME group on there. What did it say about the CME group? CME Group and the LBMA had suspended Elemental Refining, LLC, last week from trading gold and silver futures on its exchanges. So why would Elemental be trading gold and silver futures? These are companies that buy and sell physical gold. So, you know, when you're on the exchange and you're playing with futures contracts, unless these guys are the ones with the putting a futures contract out there for purchase, and someone purchases it, demands delivery, these guys help deliver it, making a huge profit because they paid little, way under spot price for the illegal gold to begin with. So now they're being taken out, which to me says, okay, well, all these paper contracts that you guys were issuing, you can't do it anymore. And at the same time, your gold and silver, or in this case gold, can't be used to for delivery. So my question is, how many contracts does this company have in the first place? What if by chance this is one of the big players in rigging the markets for some reason? You know, I don't know. You would think, well, if they're getting the gold cheap because it's illegal, they bring it over here, they end up selling it on the exchanges, wouldn't they have a vested interest in having the price go higher? Or does it not matter to them because the markup is the markup? Doesn't matter what they pay for it. So if they can keep it lower and get this low, keep the prices low, and then get the product even lower because it's illegal, and then sell it for spot price, whatever, they make their money. And they could buy more of it at these prices than they could if the price of gold, let's say, was $2,000. However, you apply the same math, they're going to get the same deal from those guys down south, and you know, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense. There's a lot more to this that it's just not out yet. So we're going to have to watch this like a hawk. But man, timing is pretty interesting, if I don't mind saying so myself. Take care.